It's the second I write a song that nobody's heard.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of artists and writers feel that too. It's like there's a moment when you receive this idea. It's like, say, 11:30 at night, and you write something and you're like, oh my God, no one in the world's heard this. And it could be the biggest thing ever. It could change lives. And it's this excitement that you have about this song. And for me, that's the dopamine. That's the high that I get that I don't really get from other places. It's very strange.
Hello, everyone. Today on our show, we are very excited to be joined by Daniel Victor, a SOCAN winner and Juno nominated artist who is also known as Neverending White Lights. Daniel has released 3 albums and has worked with a wide array of artists, including Raine Maida of Our Lady Peace, Dallas Green of Alexis on Fire and City in Color, and one of mine and Sarah's favorites, Melissa Oftemar, just to name a few. So we welcome you to the show, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is great. Really happy to be here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Sarah and we haven't had a ton of guests on our show so far. And the few people that we've talked to so far, we kind of like to begin our conversation by asking, is there a particular band or album that really got you into music at a younger age?
Oh, man. So my father was really into music, and he had a great record collection. So he used to let me go through his vinyl and listen to like random stuff. So the first stuff, of course, was Beatles, just because he was a huge Beatles fan. And it's like, I know it's a cliche answer, but it was like, okay, I was probably, in grade school, just digging on the whole collection, starting with the early Beatles stuff. So Beatles was first for sure. Then it was like Elton John.
Oh, okay.
And then it was, from him, it was like Billy Joel, Paul Simon, and I want to say Queen. And those were the CDs we used to listen to all the time. And I'm like, okay, like this music thing is, I mean, it's interesting because comparatively now to then, I feel like we're not getting the artists or the artistry in albums or bands anymore for some reason. Like when I think back to how revolutionary those albums were, I feel like we're not getting that anymore, but that's another conversation. So yeah, Beatles and those groups. And then when I was like probably 5 or 6, I discovered Run DMC.
Oh, wow, you were young.
Yeah, I was like, and I remember, so I was sick when I was a kid. So I was in the hospital a lot. And I had the cassette tape of Raising Hell.
Okay.
Which was like, it had the Aerosmith collab on it. It's like Walk This Way.
Walk This Way. Yeah.
So I would listen to Run DMC Raising Hell constantly in my headphones. And I didn't know can we swear on the show, or is this like
Oh, we don't in particular.
Well, a mother effer or whatever, right? I didn't know what that was when I was 6. And it's like, you dumb mother effer. And I'm like, God, what does that mean? Because he's saying mom, but like it doesn't sound clean. But anyway, so that was a huge record for me, just like Run DMC. And then from there it was like by the time I got into high school, like I loved George Michael and I loved the 80s like lush sort of production.
Okay.
But then it was like when I was 14, I think the greatest quintessential record of changing my view on music was Tori Amos. She had an album called Under the Pink.
Oh,
wow.
So
Cool
it was
choice.
like, it was so sort of dark and off center and emotional that I had never really heard that before. Because when I was in the 80s, I wasn't listening to underground. I didn't know who the Smiths were. It was all mainstream. So what was on mainstream radio in the 80s was like Whitney Houston and Phil Collins. And there was that euphoric 80s bubble of happiness, which is reflected in like the culture and the neon colors and the movies. And like, so I didn't understand that you could have this darkness or this raw expression in music, because on the radio, it was all pop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I found the Tori Amos album, and it just like, my world just shut down for a year, and I listened to that album, and it's kind of a depressing album, but it's really beautiful. And that was it. From that moment, I'm like, okay, like, I think what's inside of me someone else is experiencing too, because I had a connection with her musically. So she inspired me, like, number one, there was that record in her for a period of time to be just more raw and emotional.
That's awesome. It's sad because our podcast is called Girls Like Rock Too, and I don't think we've actually mentioned Tori Amos yet.
No.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
I
first one. Thank
I
you.
love that because
She's
I
so
do
good. And I had
remember.
a big framed poster of her in my room growing up, and
Oh,
I
that's
was
so
just
cool.
obsessed with her. And she's a great piano player. Like, she's classically trained, and she's a great lyricist, and she creates her own universe in her lyrics. She talks a lot about fairies and, like, other planes of existence. It's very fairy tale-esque. So she's unique, yeah.
Okay. And yeah, going back to you mentioned your dad with the record collection. I read that your dad even had he had a recording studio, didn't he, in your basement?
Yeah. Yeah, growing up, he was into, the recording arts, and, he was a performer in the '70s. He had a band, and when the bar band thing kinda changed, because, as he says, disco came in and all the DJs wiped out the bands, he got into audio recording. So when I was really small, my playground was, like, microphones and wires and cables and speakers and a lot of strange men who smelt funny coming in and out of the basement. A lot of smoke
Yeah.
between the
Yeah.
incense and the cigarettes and other substances, but, um so yeah, he got me involved in music because he was really in the love of production engineering, and Berry Gordy was his idol, the Motown thing.
Okay.
So he always wanted to sort of create the Canadian Berry Gordy, but, you know, he only got so far before moving on to other things. But then I started making my own records, and I recorded in that studio and ended up doing the Neverending White Lights stuff. So
Oh, so you did Neverending White Lights in your dad's
yeah,
studio?
originally it was all like very basement oriented. And when I made that record, Act One was after a time period that my dad had tried his hand at the studio, and he did well, but it wasn't enough to, like, retire or anything. So I was about 18, 19, and I had this vision for a collaborative album with different singers, but it was very sort of slow and dreamy and melancholic. So I just finished university and I started working on these songs in that basement, and it was just me and a couple friends. Like, it was very stitched together. So nothing on that record was really mic'd properly. Just stick a mic on a drum or a tom, and there wasn't a very professional based production, but it ended up capturing something, and we mixed that record just down the street in Windsor at my friend's basement. And so we had the Dallas Green tracks on there and the Finger 11 tracks and Our Lady Peace and all these bands. And it's like, part of me thought, what the hell am I doing? Because I'm essentially a nobody and I'm trying to make this essentially conceptual album about, life and death and existence. And, all the songs are 8 minutes long and
And
ballads.
you were fairly young at the time because that was 21 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
20, at least 20. I was coming out of I was coming out of high school university. So I just graduated at the UW, and I knew I always wanted to do music. So it wasn't a question of, am I going to be in a band? It was, how should I begin? Where should
Yeah.
I start? You know, and the reason I did a lot of it solo was because there weren't a lot of other musicians that I was connecting with musically. Like, to start a band, and then you've got, like, the guitar player and then the drummer, and everybody sort of understands this band thing, and we're Weezer, and we're the Strokes, and we're Interpol, but I didn't find that. So I just kind of messed around with my own ideas on my own, and I thought, 'cause I didn't think I was that strong of a singer to deliver the material at the time. So I
Was that
thought,
okay? I was gonna ask, like, did you just have no interest in singing, or you just, yeah, you felt like you weren't a strong enough singer to do that?
I don't know, I was writing these, like, it was 2 parts. One of them, I didn't think that I had the voice, because voice was not my strength.
Okay.
So I didn't wanna force it just because. And
No, fair enough.
secondly, I was influenced by hip hop and guest features in hip hop where you have like, Missy Elliott featuring Puff Daddy, or,
Yeah.
Sitgo featuring so and so. And it's like, why don't we do that in indie rock?
Yeah.
You
That's a
know,
really good point.
like now
Hip hop.
everybody's done it. And I've said this before many times, but at the time, like late 90s, bands were bands. There was no, you know, Coldplay and Radiohead and Tool. Like they're
Yeah.
just bands.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's make a record. And it's all these different singers stepping outside their comfort zone and doing something kind of weird and different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if it worked, but
Oh, it did.
I think
Obviously,
it
it
did.
did.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful album.
Yeah.
And so how did it work?
you.
Did you reach out to these artists, or did you have a record label that kind of said, "Hey, like Raine Maida, he could come and do a song with you"? Because
yeah,
I feel
no,
like that would be intimidating to message these big artists and say, "Hey, do you want to be on my song?"
it was. And so I was a nobody at the time. Like I was playing like pubs and bars in town, and I had these great ambitions, but I didn't have any connections. So it's not like, anybody I knew or the family knew was like connected to somebody, you know. And Windsor, Ontario is like, I mean, Toronto's got a lot of action. There's a lot of connections there, but I didn't know anybody then, and I was young. So I put together a wish list of artists that I wanted to work with, and I'm like, okay, it would be great to reach out to these artists, but this is like early days of email. Like,
Yeah.
not everybody has an email at that time,
Yeah.
so you're looking for management phone numbers on the backs of CDs.
Okay.
Calling the office, can I send a demo in or whatever? So what happened was the first artist I approached was a band called Switchfoot.
Okay.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
The Switchfoot from San Diego, California. And they hadn't blown up yet. So they were like Christian rock, and I found their CD at a pawn shop, and it was like, I liked his voice, and I like reached out to his manager, and he's like, yeah, come down to San Diego and stay over for a bit, and we'll write some music. So I wrote some music with them, and the ballad on that record was a song called On Fire, and then that went on the Switchfoot debut on Columbia Records, which sold 3 million copies. So that would, right. So I'm 22,
Yeah.
21, 22, 23, and now this record's blowing up, and it's 3 million selling, and I wrote the ballad on it. I'm like, oh, okay. So that was sort of a resume for me at that point as a songwriter, to
For sure.
get a manager and say, hey, like I'm getting some traction with this song. I've got other songs. So I reached out to Coalition Entertainment in Toronto and tried to explain what I was doing. And I've got a few, leads on these songs and the Switchfoot thing. So they're like, okay, we'll do like a trial run to see if this works. And as a part of that, if I could deliver on my word and bring a handful of artists, they would help give me a couple of their artists. So I hustled and I got backstage at a 311 show.
Cool.
Right. I'm just like, I think we made fake badges or something, like press or something. Got to hand Nick Hexum from 311. I think it was what was a CD at the time, like a burned CD with a demo and some instructions that were like, here's a chord progression. It's kind of a trip hop beat. Can you write some melodies on it? Long shot. So Nick Hexum from 311's on tour with Jay-Z. I'm at the movies going to see Signs. This is how far back this goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my phone rings and it's Nick Hexum, and he's like, I love this song. I want to do it. I'm going to sing on it. And I'm like, oh my God. So
Wow.
he recorded a song called Age of Consent, which is actually a New Order cover for the first
Okay.
record.
Very cool.
So then that happened. So the Switchfoot thing, and then the 311 thing. And I think a couple smaller bands. So a band called Super Garage, Canadian group that I reached out to. So he was working with me. And then a band called Ours, Ours, who
Okay.
became, so it's Jimmy Necco, who's the singer, and he became one of my closest friends and one of my idols. So I had a couple, mid-size acts and then a couple decent names. And then Coalition said, okay, this is going really well. So he says, we have Our Lady Peace and we have Finger 11, that if and only if they're interested in the song that you send them, we'll work the deal out so you can feature them. And I thought, there's no way. Like, Raine Maida and Our Lady Peace was the biggest band for me growing up.
Yeah.
In
They're
high
very
school.
big around here. Yeah.
Like 20 #1 singles, just.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, Raine to me was like the god of the Canadian rock.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So I didn't think, so I sent him the saddest, weirdest song I could send just to fuck with it. I'm like, okay, just go for it. It's like G minor. It's really like brooding. And he sang on it. And we actually co-wrote together like a few different songs at his place. He was in Malibu at the time. And I'm over there working with him. I'm like, this is such a dream come true. And then Finger 11 came on board through the same management company. So I went to stay with Scott. And yeah, we just co-wrote. And it was just this really organic, natural progression of things. There was no label at all. It was, just this seed of an idea. And then me writing these songs and hoping that the artists are going to see something in it or be touched by something in it where they feel pulled to it. And that's what happens. So one by one, you've got like over a dozen different artists on that record.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
I was going to say, that's kind of a lot of pressure on you. Like, hey, like Our Lady Peace will work with you as long as they like your song. Like, wow, okay. So.
Yeah. Well, some people, along the way obviously turned it down. Like, it's not like everybody was like, yeah, this is great. I was working with Tom York's brother from Radiohead. And so Tom York's brother, Andy York, is in a band called The Unbelievable Truth.
Okay.
And they never quite got their due. And I was a huge fan. I mean, Radiohead, obviously, but I was a huge fan of this band too. And we were working together at the time. And then he like pulled the plug. He's like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. And I just recently spoke to him like a month ago after 20 years.
Wow.
And he's like, I have to call you and apologize. I think I pulled some weird stuff on you and backed out. And I'm like, oh, don't worry. So the song we did together is actually going to come out on the on the reissue.
Okay.
On the B-side. But yeah, so some people weren't interested, but I would say 80% were like, yeah, let me try this. So like pressure wise, it wasn't, I didn't feel under pressure at the time because I didn't have a fan base and I didn't have expectations. It was my first record. I also didn't have a label. So I'm not making money for anybody that's going to be angry if I stop making the money, which is what ended up happening later because Act One was commercially successful in Canada and The Grace was a really big single. So now the pressure's on for the record company that we worked with. Can you produce a second hit, a third hit? Can you keep everybody making money? And that's when things got a little bit rough.
Yeah. Well, and also Sarah and I were talking, like Act One came out in 2005.
Right.
And I believe you've mentioned this in past interviews too. People were still buying CDs. It wasn't as much about streaming. And then Act 3 was 2011. And
a different time.
Totally different time.
Yeah. So the stores were gone by then. So when I started, HMV had a big promo PR release with the album. And it's a CD and there's like posters and you do CD signings. And we were also in the era of the Much Music days.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a launch back then was you shoot a video, which was really expensive. Thank God for grants and funding. You shoot a video. It goes to Much Music in Canada and you hope that they add you. So it's like light, medium, or heavy rotation. And we got added to heavy rotation. I don't know why. Maybe the song, maybe a combination.
It's a good song.
It's a great song.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, because I had no name or anything before that. So I'm like, such a long shot. So I would have been fine if they would have just played the video like once in the middle of the night. I would have been like, oh my God, I got on Much Music,
Yeah.
And here we come with heavy rotation. 10 times a day, they're spinning the song. So all these people are getting to hear the single. And it just changed everything overnight.
Yeah.
So it was this small, organic, very personalized journal of sorts that I was working on, and now all of a sudden it's like coast to coast you go and everybody knows that song
Yeah.
really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I have very strong memories of listening to that song when I was going to school in Toronto.
Okay.
And but it's funny. So it's funny how life works out. So I remember I've talked about this before on our podcast. So I lived in Toronto only for 8 months for school, and I just hated it. I was just miserable. I was
You hated
18.
Toronto or you hated school?
Not school.
Toronto,
I hated just living in Toronto.
the
I don't
city.
know. I used to like visiting because Sarah lived there already, and I loved visiting, but just living there, I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
But it's funny. So your song was always comforting to me. I just remember liking it.
Yeah.
It just soothed me.
It
And
is
then
a
it's
soothing, atmospheric sort of.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because I was watching your podcast you did with Hawksley Workman a couple years ago, and you were talking about how you tried living in Toronto and you didn't like it. So I'm just like, how does it's just funny how life works out, eh? I'm like, so now I get to talk to the guy who wrote this song that helped me
That's
get through
so,
living in Toronto. And we kind of have this connection that you're from Southwestern Ontario. And
yeah.
I don't want to speak for you, but you mentioned that you tried living in Toronto, just wasn't for you.
Yeah, I was there for a little bit. I love the city because I have a lot of fond memories of a time in my life when things were going really well and being a part of, let's say, like, for example, every year we would go to the MMVAs.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So the
yeah.
They
Much
shut
Music
down the
Video
city.
Award.
Big. Yeah. Yeah.
And we had 7 consecutive years of being nominated, which was like a dream come true. So
Yeah.
red carpets and parties, and I'm like, oh, like this is it. This is fun, you know. And I
Yeah.
got my publicity team and label and everybody was in Toronto, so there was a lot of spending time there, and I really enjoyed it. I just found it for me personally, it was good to have a place back home in Windsor, which was less sort of intense,
Yeah.
Sure.
kind of more
Yeah.
low key. Whereas Toronto, I feel like there's just the energy is it's it's a little pressurized, energetic,
Yeah.
like Toronto, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was nice to decompress and have like because Windsor's just kind of chill, right? So, but I have fond memories of Toronto, and we had a lot of fun there, and I just don't know if I would live there at this point permanently, but yeah,
Yeah. That's how I felt.
yeah.
I loved visiting Sarah there. Even now, I still do like going to Toronto, but yeah, I don't
It's a
know.
lot to live
I
there.
was
It's a
young
lot.
and I
Yeah.
just thought I was ready for the city. And Sarah and I are from Woodstock. It's
Okay.
not. You probably have seen it on the 401 as you're going home. So it's not a huge city, and yeah, I just feel like this is more where I belonged. And it
So you
sounds like
guys,
that's how you feel with Windsor.
right? So you're still in Woodstock. That's yeah,
Yeah,
more your speed. Yeah,
yeah.
I get it.
But I also wanted to talk about Windsor. So you grew up in Windsor, and you've also mentioned that you liked to go to Detroit a lot because you said you would see punk shows.
Yeah, all sorts of shows.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so. Yeah, tell us more about some bands and some clubs that you went to in Detroit.
So that's still where we go. Friends,
Okay.
family, like when we go out, we go to Detroit because that's just like it's just such a great spot. And the culture is it's dark and it's gritty and it's gothic and it just feels like you're having an experience when you're there. And
Okay.
I mean, I love Windsor. I love being here, or else I wouldn't be here. But when you want something different on a Friday or Saturday night, it's like, okay, here's a city you can go see, Tiger Game, or you can go like see a really cool rock show at a sketchy bar. So most of the bands that I listen to, like indie bands, smaller bands, they tour, they play some of the smaller venues in Detroit. So all of my first show was in Detroit. All of my shows growing up were in Detroit that I would go to. So
Okay.
I've seen I didn't keep track of how many bands I've seen, but like basically one a week for the last 40 years, 30 years. Yeah. That's like the thing to do. So yeah, so one of my favorite venues was a place called The Shelter, which is famous from 8 Mile, which is where Eminem used to freestyle battle.
Okay.
Oh.
So it's
Yes.
like a basement. And like so yeah, I remember I remember getting mugged when I was like, I don't know, 13 or 14
Oh, wow, young.
outside of, I think I saw a band called They Might Be Giants, and
Okay. Yes,
Yep.
I
they
feel like I've
opened
heard of them.
for a band for Frank Black, who was in the Pixies, and I was a huge Frank Black
Okay.
fan. So when we kind of took a wrong turn outside the venue, and then somebody kind of came at us with a gun and was like,
Oh, wow.
give me your money. And I'm like, okay. It's like,
Yeah. What else do you
go
do?
through it. Uh, Nobody was harmed. And then so um, most of the shows, like Detroit's fairly safe now. Just this is a while back. This is like mid 90s. So it's still kind of on its turnaround. But the Shelter was a great venue, and I got to see the Killers open for a band called Stella Star. And
Oh my
the
God, that was
Killers,
probably I saw them in Toronto, so that was probably the same tour.
Oh, funny.
didn't even have a record out yet.
No,
So nobody
no,
was there.
yeah. Oh,
Nobody
that's so
was there.
funny.
So it was the bartender and me and like two friends. And it was like daylight was spilling out from the sidewalk, and Brandon Flowers is out there with his glittery keyboard and he's doing his thing. And I'm like, this feels like a higher profile act than like to have three people watching,
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
it's funny. That's exactly what Sarah said when she saw them open for
Way
so you
Stella
back,
did
Star.
see them
there was
open.
something there.
Yeah, obviously. Star power and great songs. A year from that point, they ended up playing the upstairs venue at St. Andrews Hall, which is like 450 people. Then from there it was thousands, and then they became huge. But I saw Hum there, I saw Mystery Machine there, I saw Brand Band 3000 there, I
I love
saw
3000.
oh my God, Interpol,
Oh,
Pete
nice.
Yorn,
Oh,
Remy Zero, um, Switchfoot. I got to play a couple other shows at those venues as well, a few
Cool.
times. But saw Radiohead, saw the Strokes there, saw um, Spoon, Killers. Yeah, like all sorts of sizes of bands over the years. It's a
Yeah.
great city.
Yeah. Yeah, haven't really been to Detroit, but I've heard good things about the culture and the music scene there. I always think of Jack White because isn't that
Oh my
oh,
God, yeah,
right.
he's
Yes.
like the
one of
Yeah.
his
mayor of,
stomping grounds
Yep.
too?
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a studio
Yeah.
there and record pressing plant. It's really cool.
Yes,
Oh.
that's right. That's really cool, the record
Cool.
pressing
Oh,
thing.
I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah. So I also want to ask, so Act 3 from 2011, and then Sarah and I noticed that you have a song, America Land,
Miracle
on
Land,
your
yeah.
on
website
your
now.
website, yeah.
So have you started making music again? Are you getting back into it?
Well, okay, so I did quit making music for a few years. Obviously, there's a time gap between Act 3 and now because it's been 15 years since Act 3 came out, which is my last record, right? So I was working on Act 4, the follow-up, for several years, but that was when the industry sort of went through that turnover and changeover, and a lot of people I was working with lost their jobs.
Yeah.
So there was essentially no team to really help support what I was working on. And I think personally I had to sort of figure out why I'm doing this in the first place, because I started to just feel like confused about music making money versus music being music. Right? Because when music gets entangled with your finances and it's like survival based, and it's like, well, if I don't write a really great song or an accessible album, I can't eat.
Yeah.
And that just kind of screws with you a bit, because then you're trying to write, either consciously or subconsciously, songs that you think people will like, as opposed to songs that naturally just come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I at that time I felt I lost touch with the version of me that would just write without thinking this needs to sell. Like, I lost touch with the old me when I was younger, and I was just loved music, and I was like, oh, it doesn't matter if it sells. But after, you grow up and you're an adult, and then you have bills, and then you have like
Yeah.
people involved, and so it got difficult. And I'm like, I was very confused as to how to rekindle my spark for just the music and not the money thing. So I just needed to take some time for that. And I was I spent a lot of time alone, just kind of reflecting. And that led me on a sort of somewhat spiritual journey where you start to really ask the questions that, for me, I had been asking in my lyrics for the first record, because if you listen to the Grace, it's essentially asking, where do I even belong? Is
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
here on earth, not on earth? Like, do I want to participate in the game of earth? Because once you start to awaken to things, you see things aren't what you thought. Things are more corrupt, and things are darker, and things are sort of, so it's like, do you want to participate and try to like keep up and like do the things you think you need to do to survive, or just give up? But if you give up, what is that? Self-destruction, substance abuse, running away all the time, drinking, drugs, or worse. So, at that point, I'm like, I need to figure this out, because I don't want to die. I want to be here, but I also want to be able to do the things that I love and have a joyful experience. And I just hadn't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of just remove music and find like, what is the core element of why I get up every day?
Yeah.
Why do I get up? It's like, is it just to go through the motions every single day? And then, okay, there's another day gone. We're going to go to bed. Okay, what about tomorrow? Like, I don't have kids. I didn't have a wife or a family. I didn't have those types of things to focus my energy on. So it was just sort of very like, isolating. And I had to figure out why I do what I do. Why do I get up? Why do I make music? Certainly the question that came up was, because I had sort of lost a lot of money and teammates and resources making music, does God want me to keep doing this if he's taking these things away from me? Because I'm showing up and then everything seems to be falling apart, and I'm showing up and everything seems to be falling apart. So things went from bad to worse. And I'm like, I think I just need to quit. And yeah, I didn't write music for years, and I just did normal stuff. Yeah. And I got into a really great relationship with this person, and I didn't even tell her that I was a musician.
Oh, wow.
Like, we
Okay.
dated for 5 years, and I didn't mention anything about music. And I think about a year in, her friends at work told her, she's like, that guy you're dating is in a band and he's got these songs. And they showed her the Grace or something. She's like, you're a musician? I'm like, I guess when I'm doing it, but not right now. I'm not. So, but so since then, I decided, after doing a lot of spiritual reflection, that it's important to share your voice with the world in any format. It's important to share your gifts with the world. It's important to share your message with the world. And whether that's cooking or landscaping or, singing songs for people, whatever it is that you have to share, if we don't do that, then there is no world to participate in. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And we can't be afraid to share the things that we want to share, or worry that, they need to be like lucrative or look a certain way, or, you have to be relevant, or you have to. So I think that all falls away at some point. And you're just like, I want to share my music, because even if people listen or don't listen, it's in me to create. And I want to create these things for the sake of essentially creation, and then hoping that people are going to listen and like it. And from my experiences in the past, people really resonated with a lot of my music. Maybe it wasn't like massive worldwide, but there was something in the music that connected with people.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
that's enough.
Yeah.
It's important for me to get back to it. So I started writing again, and I wrote a song called America Land. It was one of the first songs I wrote. I have not released it officially. So
Yeah, we
it was,
noticed it's on your
yeah.
website.
Yeah.
So it's kind of up there just to exist, to say to the universe, like, this is an offering, but I've not promoted it. I've not done anything for it. It's not technically the first new song or single. It's just like, for anybody who happens to fall on the website, that song's there, just like a sort of like a Easter egg, I guess. But
Yeah.
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 That's
So,
cool.
but I've been working on
very cool.
Act 4, and Act 4 is, I'm choosing from about 75 to 100 songs,
Oh,
and
wow.
narrowing that
Okay.
down to at least 2 albums worth of material. And we're in the studio right now mixing that record. We just don't have a label yet. We don't have a team yet, but we're kind of building that. But I feel it's a really huge step forward from where I was. And it's more connected to that inner sort of spark, which I was starting to leave behind on the last record.
Yeah.
So I hope the world likes it. I'm singing the whole thing now. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Decided to change that. A lot of the artists that I worked with, so Hoxley Workman was one of them. Jimmy Neckel from Ours was one of them. A lot of them would say, why do you want me to sing this? It's fine. Like, your demo is fine. Just sing it. I'm like, okay, well. So this time I'm like, I got attached to the way that my voice was sounding on these songs. And my voice has changed over the past 15 years. So, all the drinking and smoking, and it's just like warmer now. So I'm singing these songs and they sound okay. I think they sound fine. And I feel like this is more definitive artistically for me to actually speak my voice and sing the songs that I'm writing, as opposed to using or relying on other people to bring that to life. And I think at this point in my life, I feel I need to share who I am. Like I need to share my voice. Yeah. So I'm singing all the songs. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Good for you. Did you do any training or anything, or?
No. Maybe you should.
No, I don't think so. I just think if I was singing, I would.
Yeah, like your second act 2, always, that's you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. My voice was just undercooked back then. So always just
I think it's really good. But like in writing that one in particular, like, did you write that thinking that you're going to sing it? Is that a bit different from if you're envisioning somebody else singing it?
I think so. At that time, I wanted to try singing more than I was. But yeah, I just, that vocal style was I was a big Smashing Pumpkins fan.
Oh,
so I was kind of trying to do the Billy Corgan like thing that he does on Siamese Dream, which kind of shaped his voice a bit. The life you'd known. It's like a softer, but my baritone's better when I'm singing from my chest and my stomach. So I've changed the way I sing it. But yeah, it was nice to actually be able to get on stage when Always came out and sing a song that I'm known for singing, as opposed to trying to be City and Color, Dallas Green, or anyone else.
Yeah.
Because if you're used to hearing the Grace being sung by Dallas, I can't sing it like that. So now I can sort of shape these songs to be known by my own voice. So it's much easier, I think, live to perform that.
Yeah. And it also must be kind of a sense of fulfillment to be singing your own songs. Like, you put your heart and soul into the lyrics. It's kind of nice to sing them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, the fulfillment it's strange. So it comes from me in 2 ways. It's the second I write a song that nobody's heard. And I know a lot of artists and writers feel that too. It's like there's a moment when you receive this idea. It's like, say, 11:30 at night, and you write something and you're like, oh my God, no one in the world's heard this. And it could be the biggest thing ever. It could change lives. And it's this excitement that you have about this song. And for me, that's the dopamine. That's the high that I get that I don't really get from other places. It's very strange. And it's just one burst. Like, oh my God. And I'm like, so what I'll usually do is I'll have like a shot of brandy and a cigarette, and I'll just listen to the song by myself for a while. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is so good. This is so good. And then of course, inevitably 2 weeks later, you hate the song. You're like, what was I thinking? This is terrible. Then it swings back around usually. And it's like, okay, there's something here. So that's one way that I feel that fulfillment. And the second way is once my music is actually finished, it's mixed, the ideas have exited, and I've captured these ideas as best as I can. Because that's a huge thing. It's like, you can envision how you want a song to be, but like, you need a producer and you need an engineer, and then you need string section, and then what's the cello going to do? And what kind of hi-hat are you going to use? And because I do all my production myself, it takes forever. And it's like, I don't want to screw up the job of getting these songs to sound as like pure as they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the second part of the fulfillment. And then lastly is when it connects with people.
Yeah.
When somebody says, oh, that song, you know, really moved me or something. It's like, okay, like there's some kind of, you know, giving and receiving happening. And that's, yeah. So.
Yeah. No, that's
powerful with music.
It is powerful.
Here we are doing this podcast.
Exactly. That's what the whole podcast is about. I just love hearing people connecting over music, and then it's awesome hearing you create music. That's a totally different level of talking.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing like your process with all of that.
Yeah.
It can be pretty personal.
Yeah. Well, it is. I think anyone who creates anything is receiving something from somewhere else. I mean, I think most artists understand this. I know some artists have talked about it. Like I know Prince talked about it, and Michael Jackson famously spoke about it when he woke up in the middle of the night and he knew that there was this idea, I think, for Thriller. And he called the studio and said, we have to record this now. And they said, no, it's 3 a.m. You're crazy. And he says, if I don't record it tonight, Prince will record it tomorrow. Because he knew that there's this tree and the fruit comes out in these ideas that you can pluck, and they're available to anybody who's tapped into that field.
Yeah.
So, you know, when an idea strikes, you have to strike because someone else is gonna grab it.
Yeah.
So I think that the collective field of humanity is like connected to this web, and there's all of these ideas that you can, if you're in tune with your frequency, you can pull those things down and then create them. So it's like almost less credit on the creators and more credit to whatever that spirit of that essence of idea is or concept is or creation is, that it's then channeled out. Because when I'm writing, I know that I don't know where these songs come from. Like The Great Game in 20 minutes, and it's like, oh, you know, it's such a great song. It's like, well, I don't think I wrote it. I think I just received it and then tried to not get in the way of it. You know, like I think it already exists somewhere.
Well, it's funny because Sarah and I, so we're big Oasis fans, and we've talked a lot about Noel Gallagher's songwriting. And you said that, I forget which Oasis song it was, but there's a quote from Noel Gallagher where he's like, I feel like the song was just always there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, you're right. That's so
Which was
that's how you explain it.
Don't Look Back in Anger or Wonderwall or
was it Live Forever?
I think it might have been
Live Forever.
I think it was Live Forever.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite
that's
Oasis
so cool.
song.
That's how you explain it.
Yeah, they're
Daniel,
fully
you gotta
formed.
watch our podcast episode on Live Forever.
That's right.
I love it. That song, it does sound fully formed.
Yeah. But no, it's so cool to talk to another artist and just to see how you guys are, not to all put artists in the same hole, but you kind of have the same wavelength of creativity.
Yeah, it was just interesting because I think Rivers Cuomo said that too.
Oh yes, you said Rivers Cuomo. His songs would just kind of appear.
It kind of just comes to him. So that's so interesting that that's how you also explain it.
Yeah, I think all art is like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you ever see a writer taking credit for, you know, say, wait a minute. But yeah, I think there's something coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really powerful.
Yeah, that is.
That's really
powerful. Very cool. When you wrote The Grace, like you said, 20 minutes. So I guess you just had like this burst of energy. Did you feel like this is the song?
Yeah, it really felt like it wasn't mine. And that's a story I tell often about the song because it came through. Like I just picked up the guitar and I'm like, okay, there's something here. And then the riff came out and then the song wrote itself, but then the chorus felt like I stole it from somewhere. It just felt too formed, you know, because it's like, because it builds and there's tension. I was like, you're not coming back for me. Things will never be doing wrong. Put me over wrong. And it's like, oh my God, there's this huge thing that just happened. So when I listened to the demo, I'm like, I freaking stole this. Right. So I went through my, I've said this before, but I went through my iTunes library and I'm like, I probably ripped this off from some band unknowing. I'm like, damn it. I'm like, I wish it was original. And I listened to everything I could find. I'm like, I don't think I did steal it. It's so hooky. So I'm like, I'm just not going to say anything. And maybe the label or the radio guy is going to say, hey, wait a minute, that's a, you know, melody from somewhere else. And it wasn't, it was mine, you know, received. And
Yeah.
it felt like something very solid and formed and special, but I didn't know how it would connect with people. Because it's not until strangers hear your music and then they tell you the stories. So the stories in a lot of those, especially the Grace, was like, I had to pull the car over when I was driving. I always get that story. You know, I had to figure out who this was. And a lot of people who went through death in the family, loved ones, hardships, traumas. I got a lot of letters from people that were going through depression, suicidal thoughts, things like that, saying that that song got them through that. Right. And it is a song about suicide, essentially. It's about asking that, not being afraid to ask the question, is it okay if I don't feel comfortable being here and going through the motions?
Mm-hmm.
And just asking, essentially, you want to ask for guidance and inner intuition to come through you from somewhere, to show you, like, you know, because a lot of us we don't face that shadow that we have. We just kind of keep busy. And when you're busy, you don't really know what's going on underneath.
Yeah.
Because you're busy.
Yeah.
So you're not really asking the questions like, why do I do anything that I do? And that was, I think the Grace was asking that question for people, literally, like lyrically saying, you know, like, these angels are sort of watching over you and you're asking them for instructions. Like, can you help just align me where I need to be? What do I need to be doing? And whatever plane of existence or non-existence that is, just like, you know, speak that to me so I understand it. So the connectivity that a song like that has with people is not just a catchy melody or a lyrical connection, but more, I think, an underlying frequency that's embedded in the song that resonates with a part of somebody's insides, in a sense. Like, there's this, like, when you said it was soothing to you,
It was.
there's
Yeah.
so imagine these songs have a frequency embedded in them, like a coding, and you also have that coding and frequency inside you. So when it's resonating, like two tuning forks, they like resonate, and then there's something that happens. That's because you're tuning into that frequency, which is coming from probably a place outside the veil, which we're all connected to, but mostly lose connection to, because our everyday three-dimensional life is very low and dense and survival based. So we're sort of forgetting the higher parts of our experience, like the soul parts of ourselves. So when you have a song that connects, it's bringing the coding from that essence of you, and then all of a sudden you're tuned into that version of you. You're like, oh, I'm experiencing this as emotions, or something soothing about it, or calming, or it's explaining things that I can't explain. That's that what I call like a resonant frequency between a song and a person's own frequency, in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if
No,
that's
it's
great.
no, it's
Yeah.
it's
No,
so
it's-
it's just no, it's interesting talking to different people about their takes on music and how it not affects them, but how it makes
I
them
think that's
feel.
why. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, I really like this song. Well, when we were talking about records we like Tori Amos, I mentioned, okay, like, what was it that was connecting with me? There's
Yeah.
something underneath. So I really think it's like a frequency thing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, definitely.
No, I love that you mentioned Tori Amos. I'm gonna go listen to her again.
Very
It's been a
cool.
long
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
She's a girl boss and an incredible
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah.
Love
Well,
her
speaking
so
of
much.
girl boss, I just wanted to ask you, like, your experience working with Melissa Oftemar, because
One of our faves.
one of our faves here on the
Yeah.
Girls Like Rock 2
Yeah.
podcast. So how did that come about?
I'm a huge, so 90s rock for me was like, that was my era.
Oh,
So
well,
there were
yeah.
a lot of 90s bands that I really wanted to work with that I didn't get to work with, like Smashing Pumpkins was one of them. So um, so Aftamar was like a huge part of that scene, and she was like this rocket ship of energy for the Pumpkins and Hole, and I'm a huge Hole fan. And I actually did a Hole cover on my second record. We did covered Miss World.
Yeah.
It's just random. But it was just that era I was very captivated by, and she was just an essential part of it, but she was also Canadian.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
So Montreal, and like, so I just thought she was the coolest thing, like, in those years. And so yeah, when it came time to make Act 2, the idea was, how come you don't have more female artists singing? Because I don't think there was any on Act 1. I think it was all guys, right? Which wasn't intentional. So, yeah, so in the name of musical equality, let's do as much as we can with as many people as we can. So I was like, yeah, I hadn't consciously even thought about it, but so I'm like, yeah, let's really start to approach some female artists for the second record. And Aftamar was one of the first. Yeah. And it was a dream come true to work with her, because she's a legend and an icon.
Yeah.
And we had a really great time in the studio. We recorded together in Toronto. And I just felt like I was in the presence of greatness with her.
Yeah.
And I gave her my sort of general production notes and what I was looking for. And then she would sing, and I'm like, okay, this is so incredible. And then I was so fortunate that she agreed to do a video with me for that song.
Yeah.
Because I don't think any of the artists had been in the videos. It's not like I didn't ask them. And then Aftamar said, yeah, I'll do it. So we did this sort of haunted masquerade theme video. And it was just great being on set with her, talking to her about like Courtney Love and Billy Corgan and all these things that she was involved with. And so I really feel so grateful that she gave her time and energy to those projects that I was doing, because she's just up there, like worldwide. She's up there.
Yeah.
So
she's just so cool.
She's so cool. Yeah. And yeah, that song is just, I don't know. It's like it was just a really great collaboration.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah.
And so Aftamar was the first, and then the second female on the record was Lexi Valentine from Magnet Lane. So if you don't know their catalog, every record is like incredible. Like, they're kind of like the female Strokes. They were branded sort of like indie rock, and like Pitchfork Media gave them really great reviews.
Oh, and that's
wow,
they're pretty
tough.
pretty harsh.
Never got on Pitchfork. But Lexi and I, we were really close for a long time, and then we dated for a while, and I wrote a few songs about her during those albums, and she wrote some songs about me on her albums. But unbiased to that relationship, Magnet Lane is just wonderful band, like great band. So, but I think they quit, and she's now releasing a solo album.
Cool.
Nice.
It's half in Spanish, which is super cool. So.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Very cool.
That's awesome. Okay. I also wanted to ask too, kind of random. I was looking at your Instagram, and I noticed that you put the Stills as one of your favorite bands. I just thought that was really cool.
So in my top 10, maybe top 5 of all time, Stills would be there.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Nice. Okay.
They're a band to me that no one talks about enough. They're a band that made 3 perfect albums, I think.
Yeah.
Like, Logic Will Break Your Heart, that first record out of the gate. So Still in Love Song was the single, which is moody, and it's just great. That record, when I listen to that record start to finish, I'm just like melodically in production, like everything's perfect.
Yeah.
It's just such a great record. And the follow-up, Without Feathers, was a little bit more sort of 70s rock. Wasn't really my thing, but it's still so good. And their last record, Oceans Will Rise, was like sort of a combination of the last 2 records. But I love Tim's voice. I
Yeah.
love Dave's voice too, but Tim's voice is so rich, and their sense of melody and melancholy and tension, it's just, they're perfect to me, a perfect band. Like they're up there
Yeah.
with Radiohead for me. Yeah.
I forgot about them, but then like I said, I'm
Yeah.
kind of creeping your Instagram because I'm like, oh, let's see what like
I
what's
don't
going.
post much on Instagram. I don't.
Yeah, no, it was. I think this
I
was
didn't
from
play
last year.
the Instagram game over the years, so I don't have followers and all that. I just
Same.
wasn't interested in social media. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I respect that. But no,
yeah,
I was just like, oh, I forgot about this still. So then
Yeah, you
I looked up
mentioned
some of
it.
their songs and
Yeah.
like Lola, Stars and Stripes. I'm like,
oh
oh
my
my gosh,
god,
this brings me back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
such a
Yeah,
good
because they were
record.
part of that early 2000s
Early
kind
2000s
of guitar.
And
garage
that's
rock
the
guitar.
thing. So that
Yeah.
that early 2000s scene was really, really like luxurious and rich and layered with like textured bands and songs, and like I want to say 2001, like when the Strokes first came out, to 2012 maybe. Like there was a lot of really high quality music,
Yeah.
really cool indie bands.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened since.
It ebbs and flows. Like
Yeah.
we had really bad cheesy, well, I don't want to say bad. We had some cheesy pop in the late 90s and then it was nice to see the garage rock come
That was
back
exciting.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Some really great bands.
who knows what's going to come.
Yeah.
It'll
Well, the
come up.
90s, the late 90s pop thing was a reaction to the grunge from the early 90s, I think,
Yeah,
because
the kind
like
of
when
dark.
90s grunge came through, it was sort of in opposition to the glossy hair metal,
Yes,
the
that's
sort of
right.
perfect
That's a good point.
solos, and
Yeah.
everybody's. So now it's like, okay, grunge comes in and it's gritty and it's visceral and it's punk again, but that's a side that maybe people don't always want to participate in. So I think like it's like, oh, we can only take 3 years of this. So it was
Yeah.
like angsty stuff, and then like, so I think after Alanis Morissette, because that was a really angsty record,
Yeah.
right? Jagged Little Pill. So I think
One of our
after,
favorites.
Yeah. It's a good
yeah.
one.
So after that, it's like, it started to taper. I think people wanted to escape the, I don't know what the adjective is, like just that rawness, and start to become a little more euphoric. So electronic music started to hit,
Yeah.
like his Prodigy came out in 97, and you've got this like drug culture coming up with these raves, and then
Yeah.
the boy bands come out, and all of a sudden it's like Britney and Christina and
Yeah.
Yeah.
NSYNC, and it's like, oh my God, this is the opposite of where we
Yeah.
started with, Nevermind and those records. But yeah, so it kind of ebbs and flows, like you were saying. But then the sort of like angsty butt rock stuff that started to happen kind of got weird, right? Because you had like Limp Bizkit and Creed and
Yeah. Well,
like,
Sarah and I've talked about that. Like I was in late elementary school, early high school when like Limp Bizkit just dominated.
They were huge.
They were, yeah. And I wasn't a fan, but
no,
I wasn't into that.
people just
it
loved it.
it widely appealed to, suburban white teenagers, male teenagers,
Yeah.
who had a lot of oddly repressed anger, which I think you could see sort of the apex of that at Woodstock 99 with all the rapings
Yeah,
and the
that's true.
burnings. It's like all of these like angry young white guys just like
Yeah.
raping out to Korn and, Biscuit. And so I was a little bit afraid of that when that came out, because I'm like, I don't want this to take over rock music, because,
Yeah.
I'm like listening to The Cure and Depeche Mode and the Smiths, and
Oh, Depeche Mode.
Yep.
Yeah.
we want more of that.
Yeah.
But luckily, the Strokes show up and save the day
Yeah.
Yeah.
as a sort of counter movement to that. And you've got like the garage rock movement
Yeah.
in the early 2000s. You like the White Stripes and Killers.
Well, we loved how it was Meg Stripe or Meg White. We thought it was really cool to have this female drummer.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was a great era.
Yeah. That was a good time.
That
Yeah.
was
It was a good era.
It was a great era. Yeah. So, well, thanks so much, Daniel, for talking to us about music and about your projects. And we really look forward, if Act 4 does come out or when it comes out, we really look forward to listening to it, because we can
It will, I
honestly say,
promise.
we've enjoyed all the other acts.
There's a lot of people like we're waiting for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We're excited.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a new, it's sort of going to reach a new audience now because it's a new time. And I know there's a core fan base that are still waiting for the record, but I'm not, I'm just like, what does the future hold? Like new listeners, new people.
Yeah.
And the sound of the new album has changed. It's a little more like there's a lot of influence on this record from like, Cocteau Twins and The Cure and The Smiths and Depeche Mode, but it's also like The National and War on Drugs and Radiohead. And
yeah,
it just feels like an album that I would want to own. Like I want a record it kind of reminds you of the Stills, but it's also ethereal and dreamy. And
yeah.
so I'm really, for the first time in a long time, I'm really confident about it and excited about it. So I think we're going to release potentially a song this fall, if not early next year. But the record will be out within the next like 6 to 8 months, like 100%.
Awesome.
Oh,
yeah. We look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Dan. I've really enjoyed talking to you. And
yeah.
We really appreciate
opening up about your writing process and your music.
I appreciate it so much.
Yeah. You're really great to listen to.
Yeah.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.